Thunder rumbles over Athens as the crowd gathers before the court. Socrates, calm and barefoot, stands accused of corrupting the youth and impiety. His accusers, Miletus, Anytus, and Lycon, whisper eagerly, while the people murmur like the sea. Yet Socrates' eyes shine with an inner light, unafraid of death, as if already conversing with eternity itself. He raises his hand, and silence falls. This is no ordinary man on trial, but a soul wrestling with truth itself. Many years before that fateful day, in the humble quarter of Alopis, a midwife named Phaenarete gives birth to a strange, strong child. His father, Sophroniscus, a stonemason, holds him proudly. The child's eyes are large and thoughtful, as though they already question the nature of existence. The air of Athens hums with destiny. This newborn will one day challenge gods and men alike with nothing but his words. As a boy, Socrates helps his father carve statues, the scent of stone dust thick in the air. Yet while his hands shape marble, his mind shapes questions. "Father," he asks one day, "why do we carve men when we could carve the soul?" His father laughs, unaware that the boy's question will echo through centuries. The sculptor's son is already chiseling at the foundations of thought. Years later, Socrates, now a thinker wandering the agora, hears a prophecy from Delphi. No man is wiser than Socrates. Shocked, he sets out to test it. He questions poets, craftsmen, and politicians. All claim knowledge, yet none can define what they speak of. Slowly, he realizes his wisdom lies in knowing that he knows nothing, a paradox that will become his creed. Athens hums with commerce and conversation. In the bustling agora, Socrates becomes a living riddle. He questions generals, poets, and youths, stripping their beliefs down to bare reason. Some laugh, some rage, yet all are changed. Plato watches from afar, his young eyes burning with admiration. The seeds of a philosophical revolution are quietly sown amidst the marketplace dust. Returning home one evening, Socrates sits among workers shaping pillars for a temple. He listens to their talk of wages and weariness, then asks, "Which stone is harder, this marble or the heart that feels injustice?" The workers fall silent, puzzled, yet stirred. Philosophy, to Socrates, is not confined to the elite. It breathes in the sweat and laughter of ordinary men. War tears Greece apart. Socrates, no stranger to danger, fights as a hoplite at Potidaea. Amid the chaos, he carries the wounded Alcibiades from the field, his calm unbroken. In the tent that night, Alcibiades marvels, "You fear nothing, Socrates." He replies softly, "To fear death is to fear what we cannot know." Even in war, the philosopher seeks truth, not glory. Later, in Athens, Alcibiades, brilliant, beautiful, dangerous, tries to seduce his mentor. But Socrates, pure in purpose, resists with gentle laughter. "You wish to trade beauty of body for beauty of soul," he says. The young general blushes, defeated not by denial, but by the depth of the man's self-mastery. Philosophy, for Socrates, is a higher passion than desire. The sophists fill Athens with dazzling rhetoric and empty truths, selling wisdom for coin. Socrates mocks them openly, calling them merchants of illusion. "They polish words," he says, "but I polish souls." envy begins to fester among the learned. His unyielding honesty wins followers and enemies. The city that once praised him now whispers of his corruption. Aristophanes stages the clouds, mocking Socrates as a foolish dreamer who teaches youth to defy their fathers. The theater roars with laughter, but Socrates smiles, unmoved. If they laugh at what they do not understand, he muses, perhaps I must help them understand. Yet the laughter of the city will soon turn to accusation, and the clouds above Athens grow dark with fate. In a shaded courtyard, Socrates gathers his companions, Plato, Xenophon, Crito, and others, young minds burning with curiosity. There are no scrolls, no podiums, only questions. What is justice? Socrates asks, and silence follows. The conversation spirals into paradoxes and laughter, the birth of dialectic reasoning, a method that will one day reshape all Western thought. Socrates calls himself a midwife of the soul. Like his mother, who birthed bodies, he helps others give birth to truth. In a tender exchange, he guides a shy student to realize the nature of courage, not in battle, but in self-honesty. The student weeps with revelation. Socrates smiles. You had it in you all along. His power lies not in teaching answers, but awakening minds. Athens, once glorious, bleeds from endless wars with Sparta. The streets are restless. Hunger and grief stalk every home. Socrates walks among beggars and soldiers alike, asking what virtue means when a city loses its soul. It is not walls that make a city great, he says, but the wisdom of those within them. Yet few listen. The fever of politics drowns the calm of philosophy. One evening, Socrates visits Aspasia, the brilliant partner of Pericles. They discuss love, beauty, and rhetoric until the candles burn low. Love, says Socrates, is the ladder by which we ascend from the beauty of one soul to the beauty of all. Aspasia smiles. She knows she is speaking with a man who sees the divine in the mortal. Their words ripple through eternity as philosophy and passion intertwine. Darkness falls upon the city. The plague strikes. Smoke from pyres blackens the sky. Amidst despair, Socrates remains calm, tending to the sick with unshakable serenity. If death is nothingness, we shall not feel it. If it is a journey, we shall find wiser souls there, he says softly to those near death. His courage becomes a quiet beacon amidst the city's terror. Pericles, once the golden voice of Athens, succumbs to sickness. Socrates visits him in his final days. You built a city of marble, Socrates murmurs, but did you build a city of virtue? Pericles' eyes fill with tears. His answer dies on his lips. As Athens loses her leader, the philosopher senses a shift in fate. The age of wisdom gives way to an age of vengeance. After Athens' defeat, the Spartan-backed 30 tyrants seize control. Blood runs in the streets. Socrates refuses to participate in their purges. When ordered to arrest an innocent man, he calmly disobeys, risking his life. Better to suffer wrong than to do wrong, he declares. The tyrant's glare, his defiance, marks him as a danger greater than any soldier. When the tyrants fall, democracy returns, but Athens is wounded and bitter. Citizens look for scapegoats, and many whisper that the old philosopher who questions everything has poisoned young minds. Even his friendship with Alcibiades, the brilliant trader, is twisted into accusation. The winds of freedom now carry seeds of persecution. Meletus, a fiery young poet. Anytus, a powerful politician. Lycon, a rhetorician. 3 men united by envy and fear. In secret they plan the trial. He makes the youth mock us, Anytus growls. He dishonors the gods, adds Meletus. In truth, what they fear is not impiety, but awakening. The city prepares to silence the voice that dared to make it think. Socrates sits by the river Ilissus as the dawn breaks, his reflection trembling on the water. Birds sing, and the city stirs. Perhaps, he murmurs, no harm can come to a good man, in life or in death. Plato stands beside him, grief in his eyes. Teacher, he whispers, they will not understand you. Socrates smiles gently. Then let us help them try. As the sun rises over Athens, the citizens flood into the courthouse. Merchants leave their stalls. Students whisper nervously. Over 500 jurors take their seats. The accused, Socrates, walks in barefoot, unshaven and calm, refusing to appeal with flattery or fear. Today, he tells his friends, we test not me, but wisdom itself. The crowd hushes. History is about to be written. Meletus steps forward, his voice sharp with rehearsed conviction. Socrates corrupts the youth. He teaches them to despise our gods and our traditions. The words echo through the hall. But Socrates, unshaken, folds his hands and smiles faintly. He sees not enemies before him, but souls trapped in ignorance. Soon, he thinks, we shall all see what truth means under judgment. Socrates rises. No scroll, no lawyer, no theatrics, only his voice. Men of Athens, he begins, I am accused of making the worse argument appear the better, yet I have never charged a fee, nor claimed to teach. His eyes sweep the room. I only question, for the unexamined life is not worth living. His words cut deeper than any sword, dividing illusion from truth. Meletus presses him. Do you believe in the gods of the city? Socrates smiles softly. I believe in the divine voice that guides me. Call it what you will. The jurors shift uneasily. His daimonion, that inner whisper of conscience, sounds to them like heresy. Yet Socrates stands firm. If this voice leads me toward the good, then it is of the gods, not against them. Socrates begins to question Meletus himself. Who improves the youth, he asks. All of Athens, Meletus replies. Then all improve them except me? Socrates smiles. Would you not agree that it takes knowledge to improve a horse, and thus, perhaps, it takes knowledge to improve a man? The crowd stirs, laughter mixing with unease. The accuser trembles, the accuser's logic undone by pure reason. Many urge him to beg for mercy, to weep or flatter, but Socrates refuses. If I said what you wish to hear, I would betray the truth. And what is life without truth? He stands tall, a man defying not only his accusers, but the fear of death itself. The crowd is divided. Some whisper madman, others whisper hero, but all feel the force of his conviction. The jurors cast their stones, white for acquittal, black for guilt. The sound of pebbles hitting bronze fills the hall like rain. When the count is read, Socrates is found guilty by a narrow margin. Plato lowers his head, Crito clenches his fists. Socrates merely nods, serene as ever. The verdict, he says softly, belongs to them. My peace belongs to me. Now the law allows him to propose his own punishment. With gentle irony, Socrates declares, I deserve free meals in the Prytaneum for serving the city as a gadfly serves the horse, keeping it awake. Laughter ripples uneasily through the court. Then softer, yet if death is your wish, I accept it. Even his enemies tremble. Never has Athens seen a man so fearless before death. The decision is swift. He is sentenced to die by drinking hemlock. A murmur sweeps through the crowd. Some cheer, others weep. Socrates bows slightly, as though accepting a gift. Now we part ways, he says, I to die and you to live. Which of us goes to the better fate, only the gods know. The philosopher who feared nothing stands victorious in spirit, though condemned by men. That evening, Socrates is led away as the sun sets behind the Acropolis, painting the sky in crimson and gold. The city buzzes with rumors. Philosophers and merchants alike whisper of what has been done. In his cell, Socrates gazes through the narrow window. Athens, he murmurs, you have condemned not me, but your own wisdom. Outside, thunder rolls. The gods themselves seem to mourn. The prison is cold and bare, its walls sweating in the dim light of an oil lamp. Chains hang unused. Socrates is not a man who runs. He sits cross-legged upon the stone floor, tracing invisible shapes in the dust, his mind wandering among the stars. How strange, he muses, that men imprison bodies, yet never their thoughts. Even in captivity, he is free. Before dawn, Crito enters quietly. Socrates, he whispers, we can bribe the guards. You can escape tonight. Socrates looks up with gentle amusement. Would it be just to flee the laws I have lived by all my life? Crito pleads, tears in his eyes. But Socrates only shakes his head. Better to die in harmony with justice than to live in discord with it. The friend's heart breaks. The following day, Socrates gathers his disciples, Plato, Apollodorus, Phaedo, and others. They sit in a circle, the air thick with silence. Tell me, he begins, what is the soul? The question blooms into hours of dialogue. The immortality of the soul, the journey after death, the pursuit of truth beyond flesh. Their teacher speaks as one already halfway to eternity. That night, Socrates dreams of a white swan rising from the river, singing as it ascends into the heavens. Upon waking, he tells his friends, it is the song of prophecy, for the swan sings most beautifully before it dies. The image lingers in his mind, a symbol of his own fate. He greets the morning as one who welcomes a long-awaited guest. His wife, Xanthippe, and their children are allowed to visit. She weeps bitterly, clutching his robe. How can you sit so calmly, knowing what awaits you? Socrates strokes her hand gently. Would you have me meet death with fear or with reason? He smiles. If we are to live rightly, we must also die rightly. Her sobs echo down the corridor, a melody of mortal love against immortal peace. Even the prison guard, hardened by countless executions, cannot hide his admiration. "Socrates," he says softly, "I have never seen a man so fearless. I am sorry for what I must do." Socrates smiles kindly. "Do your duty, my friend. You harm me no more than the healer who gives medicine." The guard bows his head, his eyes wet. Wisdom can break even chains of duty. The final morning arrives. Socrates bathes, prays briefly, and spends his remaining hours discussing philosophy. Should the philosopher fear death, he asks? No, for he has spent his life preparing for it. His students listen in awe as the serenity of his words silences their fear. Time itself seems to pause, unwilling to move toward its destined hour. At last, the guard returns with the cup. A silence falls, deep, eternal. Socrates takes it without trembling. "What is this?" he asks softly. "Hemlock," the guard answers. "May I pour a libation to the gods?" "We have prepared only enough for the dose," the guard replies. Socrates nods. "Very well. Then let us pray that my departure may be fortunate." He drinks. The world holds its breath. He walks a few steps, then lies down calmly. "Crito," he murmurs, "we owe a cock to Asclepius. See that it is paid." His breathing slows. A hush deeper than silence fills the room. Plato covers his face. Phaedo grips his knees. The hemlock creeps upward, turning limbs to stone. Yet Socrates' smile remains. In death, he looks more alive than ever. Outside, Athens sleeps unaware that it has killed its greatest voice. The first light of dawn touches the Acropolis as the philosopher's spirit slips beyond time. His disciples carry his body in silence, their hearts filled not with despair, but revelation. For though Socrates is dead, his words breathe, and will breathe forever. Thus ends not a man's life, but the birth of philosophy itself. The morning after his death, the streets of Athens are eerily quiet. The agora stands empty. Merchants whisper as if the air itself mourns. In the prison courtyard, Plato and the others sit in stunned silence. "He is gone," Crito says softly. "No," Plato replies, looking toward the sunrise. "He has only gone where wisdom comes from." They bury Socrates beyond the city walls, near the olive groves where he once taught. No priests, no fanfare, only quiet prayers and trembling voices. Plato pours water over the earth. "Earth receives what heaven lent," he murmurs. A gentle breeze stirs the trees, as though the gods themselves sigh. The scent of olive blossoms fills the air, a promise of rebirth. Days later, Athens begins to awaken to what it has done. Citizens whisper, "We have killed a just man." The jurors avoid the agora, ashamed. Even Miletus and Anytus cannot sleep, haunted by his calm voice echoing in memory. The laughter that once mocked him now curdles into guilt. The city's heart begins to ache for the soul it silenced. In time, justice turns upon the accusers. Miletus is cast out and stoned by a furious mob. Anytus flees into exile, cursing the gods. Lycon dies alone, muttering Socrates' name. The city that condemned the philosopher now destroys those who condemned him. Yet Socrates would have pitied them, for he knew vengeance heals no soul. Plato, unable to silence the voice of his teacher, dedicates his life to preserving it. Years later, he founds the Academy, the sanctuary for reason, ethics, and the immortal dialogue. "Let no one ignorant of geometry enter," the gate reads. Within those walls, the Socratic spirit lives again, questioning, guiding, awakening. The mind of one man becomes the seed of civilization. Far from Athens, the soldier-philosopher Xenophon records the memories of his master. Amid the dust of foreign lands, he writes memorabilia, the words of Socrates preserved in ink and devotion. "I write," he says, "so that future generations may know the measure of a just man." His scrolls carry the echo of that prison cell, ensuring Socrates never truly dies. Young scholars gather daily under Plato's guidance. They debate the same questions that once stirred their teacher. What is truth? What is virtue? Among them, a spark glows. Aristotle, still a boy, listening intently. "Socrates taught us how to think," Plato says. "Now we must learn how to know." The lineage of philosophy is reborn from the ashes of one man's death. Years later, pilgrims return to Delphi, where the oracle once proclaimed, "No man is wiser than Socrates." Now they understand. His humility, his questions, his unflinching devotion to truth, that was his wisdom. The priestess offers new prophecy. His soul walks with the gods. The myth of the gadfly becomes the gospel of philosophy. Generations pass, Rome rises, empires fall, and yet his words echo in every age. From Plato to Cicero, from Augustine to Descartes, each thinker carries his torch. The unexamined life remains unworthy. The pursuit of virtue remains eternal. Statues crumble, temples fade, but the questions he asked still shape the minds of men. Centuries later, under the same Greek sky, a statue of Socrates stands in marble, his gaze turned upward. Travelers from distant lands kneel before it, not in worship, but in reverence. The night wind whispers through the olive trees, carrying his immortal question, "What is the good?" The stars above shimmer as if answering him in eternal dialogue. Years after his teacher's death, Plato returns to the Athenian assembly. He stands where Socrates once stood accused, not as a prisoner, but as a philosopher. Athens must learn from her mistake, he declares. "Let us rebuild not with stone, but with wisdom." His words echo through the marble colonnades like thunder. The crowd listens, spellbound, as though Socrates himself speaks through him. The Academy thrives. Beneath olive trees, philosophers debate geometry, ethics, and the nature of the soul. Scrolls pile high as young thinkers chase the shadow of Socratic truth. Plato's dialogues, Phaedo, Apology, Republic, immortalize his master's words, turning conversation into scripture. The air is alive with reason, the garden hums with the music of thought. Among the Academy's brightest minds stands a young man with sharp eyes, Aristotle. He absorbs every word, yet questions every assumption. The master followed Socrates, Plato tells him. You must follow truth wherever it leads. The chain of wisdom continues, from Socrates to Plato, from Plato to Aristotle. 3 generations of inquiry shaping the destiny of mankind. From Athens, the flame spreads outward. Philosophers travel across the Aegean, to Thebes, to Alexandria. to the edges of the known world. Each carries a question, a method, a memory of Socratic doubt. The torch of reason leaps from hand to hand, igniting the dawn of Hellenistic philosophy. Stoics, Cynics, Epicureans, all children of one man's inquiry. In the bustling streets of Corinth, a ragged man named Diogenes lives in a barrel, mocking luxury and greed. When asked what he seeks, he replies, "An honest man." His laughter is wild, his wisdom sharp, yet behind his madness is Socrates' ghost, reminding all that truth lies not in riches, but in the soul. Even the cynic owes his rebellion to the calm questioner who died for truth. On a painted porch overlooking the sea, Zeno of Citium teaches a new way, the Stoic path. Virtue alone is good, he says, and reason is divine. His voice carries the essence of Socratic discipline, refined by logic and endurance. As the waves crash below, the Stoic ideal rises, wisdom born from questioning, strength born from understanding. Centuries pass. In Alexandria's library, scrolls of Plato and Aristotle rest beside the works of Egypt, Persia, and India. Philosophers walk its marble halls, whispering of Socrates, the first who dared to make reason divine. The city glows like a beacon, blending east and west, knowledge and faith, the living echo of his legacy. When Greece falls, Rome rises, but her conquerors bow before her philosophy. Cicero proclaims Socrates first called philosophy down from the heavens. The Stoics of Rome, Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, build their virtue upon his questions. Amid empires and wars, the Socratic voice becomes a compass for the conscience of kings. From slave to emperor, all men meet under Socrates' shadow. Epictetus, once in chains, teaches freedom of the soul. You may fetter my body, but not my reason. Marcus Aurelius writes by candlelight in his tent, whispering to the stars, "What would Socrates do?" Across centuries and classes, the same flame of reason burns undimmed. By the 1st century, Socrates is no longer merely a man. He is the symbol of humanity's reason. From Greece to Rome, from parchment to memory, his words build the bridge between philosophy and faith, science and ethics. His life, once ended by poison, now flows through the veins of civilization itself. He did not die, he transformed. The eternal city burns. Libraries crumble, temples fall, and the scrolls of the ancients scatter into the wind. The light of Athens flickers, but does not die. In quiet monasteries, monks preserve what little remains. Plato's dialogues, the words of the martyr of reason. The torch passes not through kings, but through candlelight in the hands of the faithful. In dim monasteries, thinkers like Augustine of Hippo read Plato's words and hear Socrates' echo. He sought the divine through reason, Augustine writes. He questioned the world as if speaking with God. Socrates becomes a bridge between philosophy and faith. The man who died for truth, now reborn as a saint of thought. In a cold prison cell, centuries after Athens, a Roman philosopher named Boethius awaits his death. He writes The Consolation of Philosophy, his final dialogue, as Socrates did. No man is truly captive, he whispers, whose mind is free. The image repeats, the philosopher, the cell, the serenity before death. Far to the west, beyond the ruins of empire, monks in Ireland copy Greek manuscripts by hand. Snow falls outside stone walls as quills scratch across parchment. One whispers, "This man, Socrates, he spoke truth as if God himself listened." From the ruins of Rome rises the quiet hum of rebirth, reason surviving the dark ages in silence and ink. In the golden age of Islam, the House of Wisdom in Baghdad blooms. Scholars translate Plato and Aristotle into Arabic, and through them, Socrates' voice returns. Al-Farabi, Avicenna, Averroes, they revere him as the first teacher of truth. His words cross deserts and centuries, uniting civilizations under the banner of reason. In Florence, artists and thinkers rediscover the lost wisdom of Greece. The bust of Socrates stands beside sketches of human anatomy, philosophy reborn through art and science. "Man is the measure of all things," says a painter, recalling his questioning spirit. The same thirst that guided him now awakens in Leonardo, Michelangelo, and the dreamers of a new dawn. Across Europe, scholars like Erasmus, More, and Montaigne embrace the ancient idea that questioning authority is divine duty. "If Socrates lived now," writes Erasmus, "he would teach with laughter, not anger." The humanists restore the dignity of thought, the same dignity that once stood trial in Athens. When Galileo stands before the Inquisition, he feels the weight of Socrates' shadow. "I do not deny what I have seen," he says, "for truth does not change to please the world." The trial is ancient, the pattern eternal. The state against the seeker. The poison now comes as silence, but the courage remains the same. In a cold room in France, René Descartes writes, "Cogito ergo sum." I think, therefore I am. It is the logical descendant of a single Greek question: what is man? Descartes builds the new world of science upon the bedrock of Socratic doubt. Every hypothesis begins with the courage to say, "I do not know." Across Europe, salons and academies fill with thinkers, Voltaire, Diderot, Rousseau, all invoking Socrates as the first free mind. "He drank poison for liberty," Voltaire proclaims. The age of kings trembles before the age of thought. Once Athens silenced a questioner, now the world listens to his echo. Paris, 1789. The crowd roars beneath the tricolor flag. Amid the chaos, philosophers whisper, "This is the age of Socrates." Liberty, equality, fraternity. These are not just political cries, but moral ones, born of the same belief that the human mind must be free. His ghost walks through the crowd as men break their chains. Across the Atlantic, in Philadelphia, the founders of a new nation debate beneath flickering candlelight. Jefferson reads from Plato's Republic. Franklin muses, "A government of reason, not tyranny, perhaps the dream of Athens reborn." The Constitution becomes a living dialogue, a political apology to the ages. In Germany, Goethe writes of the spirit that awakens mankind. In England, Shelley and Byron praise the rebel of Athens. "He drank death for truth," they write, "and made immortality from it." Poets transform philosophy into fire, making Socrates not only a thinker, but a symbol of beautiful defiance. By the 19th century, his method fills classrooms across Europe. Teachers no longer command, they question. Students no longer repeat, they reason. The Socratic method becomes the heartbeat of education, a dialogue that shapes nations. Every question asked in honesty is a small resurrection of Athens' greatest teacher. Darwin studies life's origins. Einstein bends the fabric of reality. Curie reveals the unseen world. All heirs of the Socratic impulse. Their experiments are not answers, but questions. The laboratory replaces the agora, yet the same spirit endures. To doubt, to test, to seek what lies beneath. In the dark years of fascism and war, Socrates' courage becomes a whisper of resistance. In occupied Europe, teachers and writers risk death to speak truth. One scrawls on a prison wall, "Better to die questioning than to live obeying." The world rediscovers the cost of silence and the price of integrity. In India, Mahatma Gandhi leads with truth as his weapon. Socrates taught civil disobedience before any empire, he tells his followers. He taught us that to die for justice is not defeat. From Athens to Delhi, the chain of moral courage is unbroken. One man's death inspiring another's peaceful revolution. In a crowded church in Montgomery, Dr. King speaks, "Like Socrates, we must create tension in the mind so that people can rise from the dark depths of prejudice to the heights of understanding." His words electrify the air. Athens lives again, now clothed in the voice of freedom and love. Philosophers of the 20th century, Sartre, Camus, Arendt, all confront the absurdity of existence with the same weapon Socrates wielded: reason. He taught us to rebel with thought, Camus writes. He is philosophy's eternal beginning. Even in the chaos of modernity, the dialogue endures, humanity arguing with itself, guided by the first questioner. Now, in the 21st century, the agora has no walls. Across the internet, billions of minds exchange ideas in endless dialogue, some wise, some foolish, all human. The Socratic spirit travels through code and light, whispering through every debate and every search for truth. Know thyself. Even now, he teaches, unseen, eternal. Psychology is born, the study of the soul, psyche, the very word Socrates once spoke beneath the Athenian sun. Freud and Jung explore the hidden self. Philosophers rediscover the command, know thyself. The human mind becomes the new frontier, yet its map was drawn long ago by a barefoot man asking questions in the marketplace. In the age of machines and atoms, Socrates' ghost stands beside scientists who fear their discoveries may outgrow their wisdom. Oppenheimer watches the first atomic light and whispers, "We have become death." The world remembers the philosopher who warned, "Knowledge without virtue is peril." His voice becomes the conscience of progress. In every classroom, from New York to Nairobi, a teacher asks, "Why do you think that?" The student pauses, and the dialogue begins again. The Socratic method lives in the hearts of educators, shaping curiosity and courage. The future of humanity rests not in answers, but in the courage to ask questions. As artificial intelligence awakens, machines begin to mimic human thought. Yet a question arises: can a mind that does not doubt truly know? Philosophers debate the soul of the machine, echoing Socrates' ancient inquiry into what makes a being alive, aware, and moral. The old question finds new flesh in silicon. In boardrooms, laboratories, and parliaments, his voice still whispers, "Is it just?" Ethics, born of his death, now governs nations and corporations alike. Every debate on human rights, justice, and dignity carries his imprint, the conscience of a world that still struggles to know what good truly means. Humanity grows powerful, but restless. We travel to the stars, yet question the purpose of our journey. On space stations and distant worlds, astronauts look out at the cosmos and wonder, as he once did, what is the good life? The Socratic gaze now peers into infinity, curiosity surviving even beyond Earth. Tourists walk through the ruins of the agora where once he stood. Children climb the worn stones, laughing. A guide tells his story. He taught that wisdom begins in admitting ignorance. The sun sets behind the Acropolis. Somewhere in the wind, a whisper, soft, eternal. Remember to think. Socrates has no tomb, no shrine. His monument is the human mind itself. Every idea that questions, every conscience that resists, every student who seeks truth keeps him alive. The gods gave Greece heroes of war, but the world remembers only its hero of thought. He walks not in flesh, but in reason. Plato still speaks with him in eternal conversation. "Have we learned, Master?" Plato asks. Socrates smiles gently. "We have learned to ask better questions." The dialogue never ends. It flows through generations like a river, nourishing every age that dares to listen. Millennia after his death, his words still echo. The unexamined life is not worth living. It is not a warning, it is a call to awaken, to seek, to question. And as long as a single mind still hungers for truth, the soul of Socrates will live. Not in stone, nor scroll, but in us. Humanity sleeps under the veil of routine, but somewhere deep within the collective mind, a voice calls from the ancient agora, "Wake up." Socrates' dream lives in every awakening, in revolutions of thought, in the courage of those who question the unquestionable. His dream was not his alone. It became ours. Ideas flow like rivers, from Athens to Alexandria, from the Renaissance to the digital age. Each current carries traces of Socrates' thought, his courage, his humility, his relentless curiosity. Civilization itself is a river that began with his question, "What is the good?" Empires rise and crumble, but truth does not burn. Socrates lit a small flame in the human spirit, one that outlasted marble and kings. Each generation rekindles it, a student challenging a teacher, a thinker defying the crowd. It is the fire of freedom through reason. Under olive trees, in quiet gardens, new philosophers gather, women and men of every faith and nation, speaking, listening, questioning. The setting is new, but the spirit ancient. The garden is the new agora, and Socrates, though unseen, sits among them still. In the age of noise and distraction, wisdom struggles to be heard. Yet Socrates' lesson is clearer than ever. Silence and reflection are acts of courage. To question one's own certainty is to resist the chaos of modern life. His calm voice remains a lighthouse amid the storm. Each time a child looks at the stars and asks why,
Socrates is reborn. Every mind that wonders begins the dialogue anew. He does not need temples or titles, only hearts brave enough to seek the truth. In every age, a new Socrates emerges.
History judges kings and conquerors, but it bows before the teacher who conquered ignorance. The philosophers who followed him, Aristotle, Descartes, Kant, all stood on his invisible shoulders. The tribunal of time renders its verdict. Socrates was right. Virtue is knowledge. Death was no end, but a transformation. Socrates became not a ghost, but an idea, an eternal inquiry that transcends flesh. His laughter echoes through centuries, reminding us that to die for truth is not tragedy, but triumph. He became the immortality he sought to understand. In a realm beyond time, the great thinkers meet: Confucius, Buddha, Descartes, Newton, Nietzsche, and among them walks Socrates, humble and curious as ever. He smiles and asks, "What is truth?" The dialogue continues forever, an eternal agora where wisdom never sleeps. And so his life ends where it began, in the human heart. The man who asked nothing for himself gave the world the greatest gift, the courage to think. His words remain our mirror and our challenge, for as long as a single mind still dares to question, Socrates lives.